Isaiah chapter 40, starting in verse 28. Have you not known? Have you not heard? The everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, neither faints nor is weary, nor understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the weak, and to those who have no might he increases the strength. Even the youth shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Have you ever been weary? Have you ever been just really, really tired? Yesterday about 11:30, my phone rang. And I answered it. It was my youngest son. He had just finished his first week of directing a session of camp at Camp Red Oak Springs. He said, Dad, I've never been this tired. He said, I don't know how y'all did it for so long. I said, you're young, just wait. I talked to him his whole way home, and it's about a little bit over a 2-hour drive back to his house from camp. He was going down 242, a road that goes from Highway 59 into Conroe, actually into the Woodlands area. And then you have to turn back north to get to Conroe, where he's from. But he said, Daddy said, I'm finding that I have to slap myself to keep myself awake. I said, I understand, son. I understand. He finally got home. He turned off his truck. He said, I'm going to go in now. I said, well, you have a good day. He said, I will. He said, and thanks for helping me stay awake. He was tired. He was tired. And I think about people in the Bible who got tired. Do you think Abraham got tired? I believe he did. How about Moses? I believe he did. How about the prophets? I believe they did. And how about Jesus? I believe he did too. But when I think of people who really got tired and who have maybe been ready to give it all up, I think of those that received the letter of the book of Hebrews. They were tired people. They were tired people. They had been persecuted because they were Christians. They had to leave their homes because they obeyed Christ and obeyed God. They were tired people. Just as Jesus was tired in Matthew chapter 4, verses 35 to 41. That he went down into the boat to rest and went to sleep. They were tired people. They were tired people from running one place to another, trying to get away from the persecution. And every place they went, they just found more and more persecution. And maybe they were saying, I'm ready to give up. The writer of the book of Hebrews is writing to weary people. And he's helping them get through this time of their life. He's talking to them on the phone. as they drive back just as tired as they can be and ready to fall asleep. And he's saying, you can do it. You can do it. God will give us the strength that we need. In the book of Hebrews, chapter 2, he's talking to weary people, saying, what can be done? In Hebrews chapter 2, verse 1, therefore we must give the more earnest heed to the things we have heard, lest we drift away. What is he saying? He's saying, keep on going. And to keep on going, give a more earnest heed. Wake up. Wake up. Be steadfast in what you do. As my son was looking forward to getting home and getting a shower and taking a nap, that's what the Hebrews were ready to do. And he said, give a more earnest heed. Give a more earnest heed. Be ready. In Hebrews chapter 3, in verse 12. Beware, brethren, lest there be any of you an evil heart of unbelief and departing from the living God. Don't only give a more earnest heed, he says, but beware. Beware. Have you ever been scared? Have you ever been scared? I've been scared. I've been scared before. We've all been scared, haven't we? What do? We not only give a more earnest heed, but we become aware of what's around us. We were living in a home south of Kuntz one time, and it was a little bit later than this in the year. And I went out and moved a water dish. And when I did, I saw a little bitty snake. The little bitty snakes don't bother me, except for one thing. Where there's a itty bitty snake, there's probably a bigger snake around. As I stepped back and I looked at that snake and could tell that it was a baby copperhead, I became aware of what was around me. And I started looking. And guess what I found? I found either mom or dad. I didn't take time to find out which one it was. But you know, Satan's that way, isn't he? Satan could have been a copperhead when he came up to Adam and Eve. He was just as poisonous, maybe more poisonous, because of the lies that he told. When we get tired, when we get ready to give up, we must beware. In Hebrews chapter 5, starting in verse 11, again, he continues on talking to these tired people, telling them what they must do when they're weary. But let's start verse 12. For though by this time you ought to be teachers, you need somebody to teach you again the first principles of the oracles of God. And you have come to need milk and not solid food. For everyone who partakes only of milk is unskilled in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. But solid food belongs to those who are of full age. That is, those who by reason have used their senses, exercised to discern both good and evil. Discerning in our life good and evil. Knowing what's good and knowing what's not. But you know, when we get down and when we get tired, sometimes we forget about the good of life, don't we? When I was talking to Matt yesterday as he was going home, I started asking him questions about different parts of camp that he'll always remember. He started telling me stories about interacting with campers. Campers coming up to him at on Saturday, as many of them do, and hug the director, to thank the director for being there to take care of the camp. And saying, I can't wait till next year. I remember as I drove away from my session of camp every year, I would look back and look all around camp and just allow good memories to come back to my mind. And what did that do? It built me up, made me stronger. I didn't have a 2.5 hour drive home. I had about an hour drive home. But I'll always ask God to be with me and keep me awake because I was tired. So when we grow weary, what do? We give Him more earnest heed. We become aware of the surroundings, and we remember the things that we do good. Because we all need encouragement, don't we? Can you get pounded on and pounded on and pounded on at work or at school or at home or wherever and not get tired? Not get discouraged? You see, that's Satan's number one tool to use against you and me and all Christians is discouragement. Because once we get discouraged, he's got his foot in the door and he's ready to come on in. We cannot allow discouragement to get in Hebrews chapter 4, starting at verse 1. Therefore, since a promise remains of entering his rest, let us fear lest any of you seem to have come short of it. For indeed the gospel was preached to us as well as to them. But the word which they heard did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in those who heard it. For we who have believed do enter that rest, as he had said, so I swore in my wrath, they shall not enter my rest, although the works were finished from the foundation of the world. For he has spoken with a certain place in the seventh day, in this way, and God rested on the seventh day from all of his work. The promised rest. The encouragement that you and I need to get through our difficult times. Life gets hard, doesn't it? Life gets hard. And Satan knows how to get to us. Whether it's our health or through our families. Whether it's through our job or our finances. Satan knows how to get to us. But what do we need to remember? We need to remember that promised rest that we have in Christ Jesus, who gave his life upon the cross so that we could have that rest. Yes, one day I'm looking forward to that rest, aren't you? But as long as I'm here, I want to be an encourager. As long as I'm here, I'm going to need people to encourage me. And that's what you and I need to be to each other, is an encourager. Encourager to keep on going. An encourager not to give up. Because it's easy to give up, isn't it? It's easy to give up, but it's hard to keep going. And that's why we need each other. And as we encourage each other, and as we try to overcome discouragement in our life, we need to realize that Jesus knows what we're going through. Jesus has been here. Jesus has walked upon this earth just as you and I have. He got tired. He got tired in his life. But that didn't stop him, did it? He kept on going. In Hebrews chapter 4, starting in verse 14, seeing then that we have such a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold fast our confession. For we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weakness, but was in all ways tempted as we are, yet without sin. Let us therefore come boldly to the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in times of need. Jesus knows what it's like. He's been here. He's done that. Now think about the life of Jesus. He didn't have it as nice as you and I have it. See, today it may have taken a little while for this room to cool down, but we have air conditioning. And I have a fan on behind me. We're spoiled, aren't we? We're spoiled. You think of those hundreds of thousands of people who a week ago were without electricity because of the hurricane that came through. I heard of people who were threatening the linemen, trying to put the lines back together, bringing weapons out and threatening the linemen. If I was a lineman, I would have got my truck and gone home. How about you? Here was somebody trying to do something good, but because you weren't happy, you took it out on people trying to do good. Who's going to take it out on you and me? The people who are discouraged. The people who don't have the hope of that rest. And they're upset. What makes you think you're so good? The only thing that makes me good is the blood of Christ. On my own, I'm not good. On my own, I don't deserve heaven. But because Jesus came, because Jesus died on the cross, because he was raised on the third day, because of his love and the grace of God, I can go to heaven. And you can go to heaven. That's why Jesus came. For you and I. For you and I to have that hope. Jesus knows what we're going through here on this earth. He's been through it too. He's been through the temptations, but yet he was without sin. You think of his death. How many of you would like to die like he did? Not a one of us. But he knew he was going to, and he knew how he was going to. And he was willing to do it for you and for me. In Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 36, for you have need of endurance, so that after you have done the will of God, you may receive the promise. We have need of what? Endurance. We need to endure this life. How do runners run 26.2 miles in a marathon? They don't wake up one morning and say, I think I'm going to enter the marathon today. They practice and they work at it. And they run day after day after day after day, some days farther, some days not as far, until they build up their what? Their endurance. So that they can get out on the day of the marathon and run 26.2 miles without anybody chasing them. I just don't understand that. How about you? But you see, we need to build up our endurance. Because Satan don't take a break. Satan's here every day. And Satan's after you and Satan's after me. If Satan wants us to grow weary, he wants us to give up. But we can't. That's what was happening with the people that this letter of Hebrews was being written to. They were growing weary with all of their persecution. And the writer says, don't give up. Don't give up. Keep on keeping on. Keep on keeping on. We need to realize something about God. God doesn't get weary either. When I look at what all God has done for me in my life, when you look to see what God has done for you in your life, don't we think he should be weary? But he's not. He keeps on keeping on with you and with me. In Hebrews chapter 6, verses 9 through 7, we're told that God remembers our works. God remembers what we've done. God remembers the good things that sometimes we forget. Sometimes we may not even know. But God remembers them. And we'll always remember them. In Hebrews chapter 9, verses 11 through 15, it talks there about the blood of Christ. That's why Jesus came. That's why Jesus died on the cross. So that we could have the strength to overcome weariness. When we get tired, when we get ready to give up, we need to look up and see Christ upon that cross. And see what he was willing to do for you and I. And then realize that he wants us to do for him. Galatians chapter 2 and verse 20, I've been crucified with Christ, nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. And the life that I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. We no longer live for ourselves. We live for Christ, who shed his blood and gave his life for you and for me. I've been asked many times what my favorite verse in the Bible is. And I believe that it's the reading that we had today from the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verses 28 through 31. But especially verse 31. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. May we today renew our strength. May we wait upon the Lord. And may we run and not grow weary. May we walk and not faint. Because you see, we have something waiting for us. When the weariness of life is over and our work here is done, we have heaven. Don't ever take your eyes off of it. Keep your eyes on it. And let each of us keep our eyes on it. As individuals, we need to be looking to heaven. As a congregation, we need to be looking towards heaven and taking each other there with us. Let us be there for each other. God's already done His part in giving His Son. His Son gave His life. Now let you and I work together to build up His kingdom here upon this earth. Let us work together to take each other to heaven until our time here on earth is done. What a glorious God we have. What a glorious Lord and Savior Jesus Christ we have. And oh, to spend eternity with them. I can't wait to see them. How about you? We always want to offer an invitation when we come together. We're going to do so at this time. Somebody may need to respond and ask for the prayers of the congregation. Why not today? Have many prayers going up instead of just one. If we can help you in any way, we ask that you come now as we stand and as we sing.